Hey everyone, Joe here. This is the final part of a 90-minute discussion with Johannes from Aligned Games. Here we cover my plans for voiceover in the game, as well as localization in other languages. Part 1 is linked on the screen and in the description if you want to start from the beginning.
Yeah, I only have about 10 minutes left here, so let's get to the last point, and then we'll wrap up. So I assume your game isn't one that is going to have a ton of voice lines. So for my game, for Operator 8, it is the kind of game where there is quite a few voice lines and quite a few recording sessions happening for getting those sorts of things into the game. And something that I've been thinking about with having all of this, these voice lines in the game, is it's important for someone that is not a native English speaker to be able to enjoy this as well, from a enjoyment perspective, a standpoint of just playing the game, but also financially for myself. Is this something that you've given any thought to?
I hadn't. Well, so there's sort of two sides to this. One is the voiceover side, and one is the localization side. Mm-hmm. I think I'm actually. I want to have a lot of voiceover stuff in the game, and not the traditional here's a story being delivered by a character type stuff.
Yeah.
But RTSs have a surprising amount of, or real-time tactics games have a surprising amount of audio in the form of unit responses and just prompts, notifications, things like that, where you don't want the unit to have one response when you move it, because that gets super annoying. You don't even want it to have three, because those same three get really annoying over and over. You want it to have 10 or more. You want them to be contextual. It's better if when the unit is not in combat, the response is sort of chill, maybe even bored sounding. But when they're in combat, they get more excited. It's it's more immersive that way. Responses for things like you're calling in an airstrike. Well, you to really sell the immersion, you want to hear the crackle of the radio. You want that pilot calling in that they're inbound in 10 seconds, and here's the the payloads being delivered. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
Getting
all of a sudden one
chatter,
action needs 40 voice lines.
Exactly. If I just go with kind of the world in conflict baseline, the calling in an airstrike is there's a voice response for acknowledging that the strike was called. You need multiple variations of that. It's not the same every time. Otherwise, that'll get old and annoying. There's a response for when the strike hits, and it's contextual. So if you hit friendlies, there's a different voice line for that. If you hit enemies, there's a different voice line for that. If you hit nothing, there's a different voice line for that. Hey, who gave us these coordinates? These are, these coordinates were outdated last week. What's the deal? We hit nothing but dirt. And then there's different variations of all those. And then at least the world in conflict
pretty quickly.
There's three factions. So now we've got to have a Russian guy do it. We got to have an American guy do it. We got to have a European guy do it, guy or gal. And you start multiplying all that out, and you're like, holy crap! There's you can actually go on YouTube, and there's world in conflict tactical aid voiceover or something like that, and there's multiple videos that are just the voice lines back to back, and it's hours of voice lines.
Wow, that's crazy. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but just the numbers adding up in my mind are crazy about what this would cost. If you, because obviously I don't know what your budget is, but for me, I have to. I don't have a recording studio or anything like that, but I hire people to do recordings, and if I had to do that, it would just be thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, it'll be expensive, and that's where I haven't decided yet. Will I actually do unit responses? That'll be tough and a lot of money. I definitely want to do at the very least responses for calling in the tactical aids, the strikes, because they're very impactful player moments. So I really want to highlight them, and I think the radio chatter that happens as a result adds to the ambiance, the feeling of the immersive feeling of the game.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, and I want to do it. One thing, Well, I could probably talk about this more some other time. One of the things I sort of stumbled into backwards, there's a lot of things in this game that are like this, where I just kind of by accident have something that's specific to this game that makes it easier for me to do than it might be for a different game. And
Okay.
it's all over a radio, so it can sound crackly. And actually, I have to apply a filter to make it crackly, so it doesn't need to be like a pristine audio recording on a pristine studio microphone in a pristine sound studio like most video game voiceover has to be. Like, you can literally just record it on your phone, and I'm going to pass it through a terrible radio filter anyway, and all that stuff doesn't matter, goes away. So just by virtue of the fact that all my voiceover is going to be over a crackly military radio makes my process for recording the voiceover significantly easier.
Yeah. Well,
and that's sort of just an accident of like what the game needs. Like, not every game can do that.
That's true. But outside of, the game itself's audio and text, there is also, of course, the Steam page and your marketing resources. So have you given any thought into the localization for that? And, this is something that most developers probably, I'm talking about indie developers, but most of them probably don't even give any thought to this kind of thing.
I hadn't really. It was more of like, I'll worry about that when the time comes. But as of the launch of my Steam page, like on day 3 or something like that, I got a big unexpected spike. And I was checking the numbers, and I was getting a surprising amount of traffic from Japan.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this? Why am I getting traffic from Japan? And it turns out that some Japanese Twitter like news aggregator or gaming news aggregator they must like scrape new Steam pages or something like that and do posts about them.
Yeah.
It turned out that they made a post about the Steam page, and it got 25,000 views or something on Twitter. I had no idea this was happening. So for one day, I had more traffic from Japan than from the US, which was very surprising.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how big the Asian markets are.
So I'm thinking about it more. I started having to Google it because I'm like, I think traditional Japanese is written vertically, but I don't think they do that for, text in games. So maybe it wouldn't be that hard. I don't know. So I'm definitely very ignorant in that area. But it's something I'm now thinking about more, just because, and I've heard plenty of advice of like, hey, if you hit big in a country that, somehow for some reason there's a lot of fans of your game in that country, like, do a localization. You'd be surprised how valuable it can be. So it's something I'm starting to think about because of incidents like this, or happy accidents. I guess.
That's probably going to happen more so. To anyone that's listening that is a developer, it is pretty important. I'm also working on getting the localized versions of my Steam page up and running. And it's something that takes a couple of weeks to do, but in the end, it can be very valuable to you as a developer. So I would definitely say go for it.
Yeah, localizing the Steam page will be one thing. Localizing the game.
Yeah, but I do think you can separate those. I don't think you necessarily have to localize the game if there is no indication of a big spike in interest from another location. Right. But if you do have that, it is also something to consider. But okay, I'm pretty much out of time. So
okay, yeah.
This has been quite a interesting chat. We got off topic a lot, but I do enjoy doing that as well. And I've learned a lot about your game, which has been pretty interesting. I now understand it a little bit better, and I'm definitely going to keep following it. I think we are set to do another recording at some point. So this is going to be the second out of 3. But from my side, it's been a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, here as well. Always a pleasure. Happy to do another one in the future.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a lot of fun.
So thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to put Joe's game again in the section below and on the screen, and I'm going to do the same for my game Operator 8. So check us both out, and thanks for watching.
Thanks. Take care.
All right. Cheers.